Hello. What's a good way to start a fucking trip report video? I think the best thing is to just get right into it. This was actually a couple weeks ago. The setting was my apartment. No one else was home. It was like 9 o'clock at night on a Thursday, something like that. I ended up vaping 30 milligrams to start with, and it was a pretty interesting, like, lighter dose experience. I didn't really get a chance to close my eyes, and so I was actually like sitting right in this spot, but facing like this direction, and I used a volcano. I took the third pull of the 30 milligrams, and I was sort of facing this way, and there's really nothing over here in this end of the apartment, but it's just like there's just a wall there, really. But for some reason, this fucking wall was like, I was so fucking hypnotized by this wall, like it was pulling me in, and I could feel like really physically being pulled towards this wall for some reason. But it felt like really nice. It was like this really euphoric, hypnotic state that I haven't really experienced so much on DMT, like with my eyes open. But it was so nice. It felt so good that I was like, you know what? I might as well just quickly vape another 30 milligrams, thinking that I'll kind of like just extend the experience, because this was like at minute 12 or something of the first 30 milligrams. So I was still feeling like fairly fucked up, but nowhere near like the height of how fucked up I was feeling. So I quickly weigh out another 30 milligrams. I load it up into my volcano. I sit down back onto this mat. I take the first pull, and I didn't really feel much from the first pull, honestly. But then I took the second pull right away, held it in for a super long amount of time, and before I could even exhale it, I was completely fucking gone. And this was with completely open eyes, so this is full open eye hallucination. I exhale the second pull. I go from being in my living room to some other room. It was like a cabin in the woods. Everything was like covered in wood paneling, and I could even like hear birds and shit like that outside. So like I knew I was in the woods somewhere, and I'm in this chair in this cabin, and all of a sudden I hear, "Hey, what the fuck?" It was like a really angry, aggressive voice, but it also sounded like vaguely familiar. So I look up, and I see coming right at me is me. It's not like exactly me. Like my face, I had different facial hair, my hair was shorter, my body weight was a little different, but I knew that this was fucking me coming right at me, and he was fucking pissed. He thought I was like an intruder or something in his cabin, and the whole energy I got from him was like, hey, what the fuck are you doing in my cabin? Whereas the energy from me was like, how did I get from my living room to some cabin where there's me? An alternate version of me. I was literally like, what the fuck am I doing here? And then I was like, what the fuck am I doing here? It was like really like a meta mindfuck. He was like, hey, what the fuck? And he rushed me, and right before he like got to me, my consciousness just like exploded. Like, I don't know how else to describe it, but I went from being able to perceive of something like myself and an alternate self to really seeing all consciousness, all forms of consciousness, all possibilities of consciousness, all types of realities. Like, basically, I saw like what our normal level of reality is, the level of reality that you can see and smell and taste, etc. I saw that level of reality represented to me as like one pixel on a giant fucking IMAX screen. And it showed me just how minuscule and kind of like meaningless our normal style of reality is, and just how relative it is, and how like not true it is. And when my consciousness like blew up like that, it really felt like for the first time ever I was feeling something and touching something true, something that was absolute and not just relative to my environment and my genetics and the blah 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 and the shit that we have to put up with here on earth. So this is all going on, like it's very shocking for me. First off, it was very jarring when I came at myself and I was like, "Hey, what are you doing?" It was like so jarring that I actually jumped up from this mat, and I was just like stumbling around and kind of like in shock. And 1 second I'm in some other thing, and the next second I'm in my living room. I tried sitting on my couch, and I kept telling myself, oh, it's just DMT, this is just what DMT feels like. But at the same time, I also was like, no, but you've done DMT so many fucking times. You've never felt something like this. So I start stumbling around my living room. 1 second I'm in some alternate dimension, the next second I'm on my couch. I tried closing my eyes and just kind of having like a normal DMT experience, but it just wasn't happening. My consciousness just kept feeling like it was exploding and widening to such a obscene degree that just the very knowledge that the way we normally perceive things is with the five senses, just that very knowledge seemed so meaningless and stupid. And I really felt like I was experiencing reality and experiencing consciousness like a god might feel it. I wasn't just seeing things like a human being does while they're alive on Earth. I was seeing all things at once. And eventually, like, I just start coming down and I'm like, whoa, like, what the fuck was I just feeling? And it felt crazy. Like, I felt like, what should I do? Should I call the news? Should I call some science journal? Should I call my therapist? Should I call my girlfriend? I didn't know what the fuck to do. It felt like I had stumbled upon to some crazy secret that was like a forbidden, unknowable secret. So basically what I think happened is I know this sounds ridiculous, but I genuinely think that I made contact with like an alternate self in some alternate dimension. I don't know what the fuck happened. Some gateway opened up. I know it sounds ridiculous, but it really feels like that's what happened. And I've had crazy DMT experiences before where I was like, I was in another dimension and all these things were happening. But when I came out of those experiences, at the end of the day, I always felt like, yeah, but that was kind of self-generated. That was kind of guided by my subconscious or whatever. But this fucking time, I did not feel that way. And it was really, it was really difficult dealing with that, because it kind of made me feel a little crazy. Like, oh yeah, I really contacted my alternate self. Like, at a baseline level, that kind of sounds crazy. But when it happens to you, it's like, what are you supposed to think? But yeah, it was a really interesting trip. I gotta say, like, after like over 100 trips, that had to have been like the most intense breakthrough that I've ever had. I've had maybe only a handful of actual what I would call breakthroughs on DMT, and even though they were breakthroughs and they stood on their own as unique experiences, they all kind of felt the same at the end of the day. But this one experience really stands alone as a unique experience. This was the only time where I ever felt like something real happened. No, I actually went somewhere and I proved some crazy unprovable thing, and basically like magic happened. That's my trip report, is I had magic. I made magic happen. A lot of people were commenting on my other video of me tripping on mushrooms that they wanted like a follow-up video to that. But I'm not sure like what exactly people would want to see. I don't even know why people would want to see anything of me, but if you guys are into it, cool. So anyway, let me know what you would want to see as a follow-up video to my last tripping on mushrooms video. That's most of the footage that I have of me tripping on mushrooms that day, but I have a whole crazy story of what went down after that. So yeah, comment on what you'd like to see. That's it.